We're looking for this. We like this mill and overlay work. And when I'm talking, we get it in 2 inches. Oh. We're talking about 2-inch mill and overlays. Shifting gears.
Hey, Mikey.
Huh?
Hey, Mikey.
Hey, Mikey.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this episode of the Pave It Forward podcast. My name is Phil Metzger, and with me is Kevin Gray, and we are here to help leaders in the paving industry who are looking to run more efficiently, meet their ideal customer, and improve the lives of those around them through meaningful work. Kevin, how are we doing today, man?
I'm good, man. I'm a little tired still, a little worn out. We surprised the 11-year-old this past weekend with a surprise trip to Dallas, Texas for WrestleMania. Which I'm not huge into the wrestling scene. I was back in high school, early college years when it was Stone Cold and The Rock and Triple H and all those bad dudes, and Trish Stratus, you know, the gals too, the Nitro Girls, all that fun stuff. But it's been a while. Out of proximity to my 11-year-old, I have watched a little bit of wrestling in the last couple of years. He's really into it. So we surprised him Thursday night. We bought him a new Brock Lesnar t-shirt. Said, hey, you might want to pack this for this weekend. We're going to WrestleMania. So he was stoked.
My goodness.
WrestleMania this year, for the first time in history, for those of you who don't know, was a 2-night event. So it was all you could get Saturday night and Sunday night. Oh, and by the way, SmackDown was in town in Dallas Friday night also, and he convinced us to take him to that as well. So we had not one, not two, but we had 3 nights of 4 to 5 hours each of hardcore WWE in your face wrestling action. So I'm and you know, flight down, flight back. I'm catching up on that. I get one more good night of sleep tonight. I'll be good to go, man. Sorry. That was a long how you doing? But that's how I'm doing. I'm a little sleepy, but I'm here and I am ready to deliver.
I like it. Yeah, I'm pretty much the same thing. Like, my parents did not like me watching wrestling. It could be because
I didn't either.
Power bombing classmates on the playground after I did, right. But or the Razor's Edge, that wasn't a good one. Not a good one for the playground. But I did see on your story that, and we'll get to paving here in a second, but yeah, someone that did have an impact on me because he's ginormous and would walk across the ropes and had one of the best entrances in the history of any fighting anything was the Undertaker. Yes. You got to see his retirement speech? Was that it?
Yes. Yeah. After an 11-minute standing ovation, which was powerful. But yes, and we did watch his retirement speech. And by the way, if you haven't checked out his retirement speech on YouTube, I think you told me it was trending over the weekends, the most viewed.
It was the top trending search on YouTube at one point this weekend.
It's worth 30 minutes of your life. If you're into self-development and working, personal development, taking care of yourself, getting real with yourself, being honest with yourself, and hearing somebody tell the story. He said when he came out and he got in front of that microphone, he said, "I'm taking off the Undertaker mask. This is the story of Mark Calloway," and he talked about who he was as a man through this process, not as the Undertaker, but as a man, and just some of the lessons and the stories he told in that 30-minute retirement speech, man. I mean, really, really powerful stuff. So, I mean, it's worth a watch. It's worth a watch. You can you don't even forget about that he was a wrestler. Like, it has nothing to do with WWE or wrestling. It is about life. It is about what his life looked like. It's a lot of lessons in there, a lot of lessons in just being in tune with yourself and living life to the fullest, man. So it's nice, good stuff. I highly recommend it.
Well, it is going to be a good throwback weekend.
I'm going to call my son out here because this kind of rubbed my wife and I the wrong way a little bit. But we didn't make a big deal about it at all because this is his weekend, our son's weekend, his rules. We're going to do whatever he wants to do. But we're 3.5, 4 hours into this Friday night. We watched the SmackDown, the wrestling show, and then they had 5 people they inducted into the Hall of Fame. Undertaker being the last. And literally we've sat through all of this all night, basically to get to the Undertaker's retirement speech. And 10 minutes before he's done, Jack, our 11-year-old, he's over there asleep in his chair. He's like, I want to go home. He's like, I'm ready to go. So, and he was pretty adamant about wanting to go home. So Mom and I said, as in tune and as engaged as we were in his retirement speech, we got up and we left, and we missed the last 10 minutes, which apparently I still haven't sat down and watched the final 10 minutes of that thing yet, but apparently that was the best of his retirement speech as well. So nice. We missed that live. I'm definitely going to catch the rest of that. But I just thought that was kind of funny that we bailed out on the last 10 minutes.
So life said you had a plan, huh?
Yeah. And then, yeah. What my mother-in-law, who's passed, who's 59 there. What would ma'ams do?
Yeah.
She used to always say, man plans and God laughs.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's something I try to remind myself of quite frequently, actually, in part of my self-development, and trying to be the best I can be during my life here on this earth. So
sure.
Anyway.
So even beyond being a human being and a business owner, it kind of all falls back to that. And it sounds like we have our weekend plans before what we were talking about before the episode, Over the Top, and the Undertaker's speech, and a little bit of baseball. That is all good background stuff, and good stuff to take a break. Well, anyways, I hope everyone listening today is having a great day. And today we look to bring you, the asphalt business owner, the value that you're looking for. In today's episode, we're going to talk about ideal job types. And this goes back to the planning, and perhaps one of the more frustrating parts about being a business owner and having those plans laughed at is that you still have to make the plans because nothing really gets done without knowing which direction you're at least wanting to head in the long term. So today we're going to talk about those ideal job types. And then we're also, just a quick heads up, we're going to get you guys thinking a little bit because we have some ideas coming in, and we're looking to bring certain people and leaders in the paving industry together in all kinds of different formats to talk about their success and the lessons they've learned as a business owner in the industry. We would really like your help in discovering what these questions are. We've had a couple people comment, David Malzone, I guess I don't know him yet to shorten his name, but he was inquiring about thoughts on how to transition from being on the crew to in the office as an owner operator, and then how to find the right guy to fill your shoes and what you do with your newfound time. Talk about a heck of a question. That's
for most of these small paving businesses, that is the $1 million question.
Yes. Sure. Yeah. And that's why, I started with, what's one question I could ask the listeners? And it was, if you could accomplish one thing in 2022 and understand better for the rest of your career in asphalt paving, what would it be? Because I'm really trying to get people to get these deep questions. Like, we have not thought about that question at all, but we are going to seek people outside of, our own company, leaders across the country, and see if we can't get some kind of panel, even if we record and have to represent to guys. Like, it goes beyond what we can provide. And it takes multiple different angles. So, we're excited about that. Michael up in New York, I gave him a ring last week because you were out of town, helping Jack get his nap time in. And I had a great conversation with him about how he's been looking for a supportive group of paving business owners to get around and share tips with. He also talked about his humble yet impressive presence in New York without ever having to advertise. So that's amazing. He's been in the industry 33 years and started when he was 19. And now he's looking to transition out and pass on his company to the next generation. And that all started from just submitting a form. We talked for probably about 30 or 40 minutes. And then one more guy reached out this past week, Charles from Colorado, with a seal coating business. And we've received plenty of submissions now. Well, I guess it's about 3 or 4 on seal coating. So we don't want to skip that anymore. And we'll be, looking at setting up an episode of that soon. Yeah. But man, keep these things coming because, we can sit back and look at the aspects of, which, you do for ADC and what we've learned with other people. But man, it's so small compared to, the amount of people that are actually out there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's you forget now, now that we've got this platform, we got plenty of input and questions and feedback and all of it, through the ADC platform. And now that we've opened this platform up as well, you really start to appreciate, and it's kind of amazing how big, large, and how diverse our industry truly is. We're getting questions from your $100,000 a year revenue seal coating guys up to your $100 million large scale paving contractors that are running 5, 7, 10 crews. So it's like, man, this is a huge industry. It's a $1 trillion industry. When you start to really wrap your head around what all of those pieces are that make up that industry, it's definitely expansive, and it's pretty impressive. It's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool to be a part of it. Realize that it takes all of those pieces of the industry, big or small, to comprise the services that we provide as an industry to consumers. So
sure, and just to be able to discuss those different levels.
Yeah, exactly. And what's very interesting is that no matter how big or small, most of the issues, problems, questions are very, very similar. Whether you've got 3 employees or 300, whether you do 100,000 or 100 million, it's all relative. It's all very relative. So.
Yeah, and just discussing the opportunities, because what might be right for one company, which we're actually getting ready to talk about, might not be right for the next. But to know about the opportunity and to go uneducated, man, that's part of the comments and feedback that is more invigorating than we could have thought of. But anyways, let's get to these ideal job types. So if you have any questions or multiple questions or just a comment and you're not even sure what the question is, why don't you go ahead and reach out at hello@paveitforwardinc.com. That's hello@paveitforwardinc.com. Or if you just want to go to paveitforwardinc.com, there's a contact form on the bottom of every page, and let us know so we can start the conversation and solve some problems.
I can't. But every time you every time you rattle that, I can't help but think of Adele. Hello, hello. I don't know why. Just instantly.
We're going on the live episodes. We're going to need Charlie to have that queued up and ready.
Oh,
just Ado's hello. So Charlie, let's get that done.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. So when you first started with ADC, just on the line of the types of jobs or the scopes of work that ADC was performing, Kevin, what did it look like when you first came in?
Oh, yeah. Very, very small scale. 90% residential work, whether that was seal coating or paving, which included residential, repairs, patching, even pothole filling. Very, very little commercial work. I mean, back in, I got into this company in 2009. I spent 2009 and 10 shadowing my wife's aunt, who had this company from 80 to 2011 when she sold it to us. And it was very, very small operation. Had maybe 10 employees. We were running, the prep and paving crew was one crew. It was 6 or 7 guys. And then we had 2 or 3 guys out seal coating. And I back in those days, man, gosh, 100 to 200 ton parking lot was like a home run. It was like, holy cow, we got a 100 ton job today. Was a big deal. So it's been quite an evolution. But I mean, it was lot of driveway, remove and replace and overlays. I think our minimum back in those days were, I think we'd go pave a driveway for as little as $1,750, I think, was our minimum price. The cost of materials hasn't really gone. Now it's taken a jump this year, but in the last 10 years, at least in our market, hasn't. It's been right around that $50 a ton or so for the last 10 years. So I mean, basically our costs are about the same today as they were then. Sure, we have quite a bit more overhead, and our wages are drastically higher than they were back then. We're paying people pretty darn good money around here. But other than that, I mean, we were going out and doing $1,500, $2,000 driveways. Like I said, a ten to $20,000 driveway was a huge deal for us. A lot of driveway seal coating. We did, anytime we got something commercial, I'm talking 100,000 square foot seal coating job, we'd land a few of those a season. Those, were a huge deal. It's like, how are we gonna, just how are we gonna pull this off? The logistics of things like that, which today, granted, I've been doing this 10 and 11, 12 years now. Today it's not intimidating or scary at all. We've done hundreds of them, so it's
Sure.
it's not intimidating. But back then, I mean, like I said, 100-ton plus paving job or a 100,000 square foot seal coating job was like, holy cow, it was great. We were high-fiving around the office and stuff like. So that's 10, 11 years ago when we took over. I mean, that's who we were. We ran 4 single axle dump trucks. We were lucky to have 2 of them running any given week. A bucket paver, a broken down pickup truck with a 350-gallon seal coat tank in the back of it that looked awful. It was red and had sealer all over the side of it, and we looked like some gypsies, man. We weren't. We were still. We were still one of the tried to be, offered, had historically had a great reputation in town and one of the top 2 or 3 residential pavers and pavement maintenance, small contractors in the city. But man, we didn't understand the thing about brand or image or our uniforms matching or our trucks being clean. I mean, it was a rodeo, dude. So
a giant patch job, no
yeah.
pun intended.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about
we look like a quilt. Just a random mesh of materials thrown together, and out came the work. So the work did always get done, though.
You always, there's plenty of different aspects of business to where, you can, as a business owner, you can look to see where improvements are needed. But as far as like the ideal job type that, you felt, obviously you run a couple different scopes of work, you have a couple different aspects of your company now, but
Yep.
how did you approach going from, just the patching and the small driveway work and maybe a couple times a year that large seal coating? How did you determine what direction you wanted to go for your job types?
Well, we knew where we wanted to get. We knew, I don't, everybody, I think when they start in business, they're like, this company was doing $400,000 or $500,000 a year when we bought it, and my goal immediately was a top of the financial statement sales goal. Like, we're going to do $1 million next year.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about revenue. It was all about sales. How many sales can we generate? And what in turn, I mean, what that produced on the back end by saying we want to get to $1 million. We actually did $1.2 million in the first year we took it over, from 500,000 the year before. We were saying yes to every single customer that called our office. We were fielding every call. We were bidding on every job. We were taking anything. Like, we want to sales. I didn't understand it. It wasn't until, and some of my mentors explained this and talked to me about this and told me about this theory, 10, 11 years ago. And it took me another couple years past then. So maybe, 6, 7 years ago or so, to really understand what it meant, that you will not start becoming profitable or make it in this industry. You will not make it long term until you figure out how to tell certain customers and jobs no. When you can say, this is not a good job for us, this is not a good fit, we know this isn't profitable for us, because we don't have the correct manpower or equipment, or we're not aligned to do this kind of work, especially at this kind of price. That it's a struggle and it's a grind when you're out there saying yes, like we were, to every job that was presented in front of us. it's tough, man. And until you, and I'd be glad to talk to anybody about what this actually looks like, because it's there's some very tactical strategies and data and approaches behind all of this. Saying no, it's not just easy as learning when to say no. What does saying no really look like? And we can dive into that. That could be an entire episode on its own.
Sure.
But until we figure that one out, it was, and that, that's changed. It's still changing for us. We sat down at the beginning of this year and said, we're gonna these certain types of scopes, or these certain size, or this part of town, or whatever, the minimums need to be this, or this scope of work in that part of town, we're not willing to do at all, or we're not willing to do it for less than X, Y, or Z. Things like that. It's always evolving, because as you grow, your overhead is growing as well with you. You're acquiring more equipment. You're hopefully paying your people more money. So your expenses are probably getting a little higher each and every year. So you've really got to make adjustments as you grow, and you're going along this, up and down through your career of really being able to adapt and make very educated decisions based on an exorbitant amount of data that you've collected over your career, during your career. That's why we stress it's so important to track your job costs, really track your job costs on every single job you're producing as a business. I don't care if it's a $300 striping job or a $300,000 paving job. I mean, you've got to be collecting that data so that you can learn what to say no to, what to say yes to, what we can charge for those jobs that we really want, how to go after them, how do we market towards them, how do we go find those customers. Don't let them come to you. What are we good at? What are we very profitable at? What are our crews enjoy doing? What are the equipment we have? What is it, what does it enjoy doing the best? What's it the best at? And you marry all that, and you go find those customers, and you start chasing and hunting and fishing that kind of work. So none of that happens overnight. I mean, it's like I said, we're still changing stuff every single season, sometimes within the seasons, of what that looks like. And it's based on, how well you're collecting and analyzing and kind of chewing and digesting the data that you're receiving from the field, and putting that into action. And again, I mean, that's there are so many different angles. We could probably spend a month's worth of podcast talking about saying, what to say no to, what to say yes to, and why. And I mean, that could be, we had the motto a couple years ago, our little slogan for the year was no bad jobs. And obviously, yes, that meant let's go put out some quality work. We don't want to leave a customer with a bad job, no bad jobs. But more importantly than that, it meant we don't want to entertain bad jobs. And by bad job, meant a bad job for us. Not every customer is a good customer for your business, and it's fine. We just talked about our $1 trillion industry, that there are people that do 100 grand a year to 100 million. There is a contractor, hopefully they're decent enough, or can do good enough work to service that level of customer. There's different needs. Hopefully there's supply from a contractor to match that demand from the consumer in our industry, right? So you don't have to save the world. You don't have to be Superman in your market and say we're going to save every single asphalt problem that exists out there. And that's probably that's probably top 3 biggest things I've learned in my career, is learning how to say no.
I think I went ahead and wrote that down to use as an episode. And that's another topic that's approaching, even how to transfer off the paver into a more company managing position. But we're going to come back to that, because I think the big thing out of what you said right there is seeing what you already have and what your strengths should and could be for the current time, and focusing on that. Because I know one of the first things people have to be saying is, well, how comfortable it is to have work lined up, when it gets to the time where you start saying no to certain customers, and that list gets pretty small for the upcoming days. it can be nerve wracking.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to dive back into that, but maybe I can, just so we can keep moving on the ideal job types. We are going to come back to saying no on a different episode, but soon. How many different general scopes of work does ADC have right now?
Oh, and well, let me say something just real quick on that too before we leave it.
Sure.
You nail, yeah. I'm like, if you're if you're running out of work, like you don't have a backlog, like it's okay. When we've had to do it, we you either pivot or sometimes you do have to maybe drop that minimum a little bit to fill the pipeline back up, and maybe you do have to go do some jobs that aren't ideal, but some profit is better than zero profit at some point. You know what I mean? At some point, you can't say, well, we don't do that kind of work anymore. If you're losing money and you still got mouths to feed and the lights to keep on, like you got to put your pride aside sometimes and maybe shift back, revert. So it's not a set in stone necessarily all the time. So
sure.
I'm not suggesting that if you don't have work to keep telling people no.
Sure. Yeah, especially when you have other people. What you can personally risk, but you have no clue, especially if you have employees.
That's right. Yeah,
what they have going on. You got to get them hours.
So our currents, what are our
scopes of work? Yeah, just as far as what services.
Our bread and butter these days are and what we've become really good at, from a production, from a quality, very much from a quality standpoint, efficiency, logistics, just project management of these, mill and overlay, large parking lot projects. I mean, that's we've become really good at that. So that's probably our primary scope. We still do quite a bit of residential work. We're trying to we're trying to phase out, the 20, 30, maybe 50 ton and under driveway work kind of stuff. We will still do it. Our ideal scope on the residential side is like luckily we're in Kentucky. We're around a lot of farmland. The thoroughbred industry is huge here in Kentucky, so we really like going after these large farm, pave over gravel kind of projects where we go in and grade the stone and we're paving. You might have some interesting pools and some handwork and take some time up by the house or up by the barn or by the property. But then you've got this big long straight pools where we can go do 200-300 ton driveway and 3-4 hours and knock out 2 or 3 of them a day. And we're talking $100,000 days of driveway paving, opposed to trying to run around town to get 5, 6, 7, inner city subdivision style, urban, not urban, but urban and then the suburb kind of driveway style to get, have maybe a $40,000 day if you're lucky, if you can get 6, 7, 8 of them done in a day. So that's a grind. We don't do any pothole filling anymore. We do a lot of mill and patchwork. It used to be all saw cut patchwork. So we'd literally take a saw, whether we'd be doing just the surface layer or full depth, talking 1.5 inches down all the way down to, from 4 to 6 inches, saw cutting it out, removing it with a piece of equipment and placing it back in, which is very labor and equipment intensive. Now we're doing those with planers on skid steers, so we're milling and patching. So I'd say the large, the commercial mill and overlay projects, the larger residential paving stuff, mill and patchwork, both. We don't do any residential patchwork anymore. None. No repair work on driveways. So we do that commercially, and then we love to, crack sealing is great. Crack sealing is very efficient on the maintenance side. Crack sealing and seal coat, we've become very profitable and efficient, and that as well. So those are our, and that way we've incorporated our own striping division now too. We'll see how that goes if we can figure that bad boy out. So I mean that's kind of who we are today, and we've learned again who to say yes to, who to say no to. You discover, it's kind of like when you're going from adolescence to your teenage years and to becoming a young adult, and then getting into your 30s and 40s and kind of figuring out who you really are, as a person. Sure. That's kind of where I feel like we're at as a business. It's like, okay, we're figuring out who we are and then who we want to be when we grow up, and we're taking those steps day by day to hopefully put us in that direction. We're trying to do the right things every day, which if we do that, we should get the results we want.
Sure. So in that kind of light, do you actually have goals for like the types of projects you'd like to be doing 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Or are you just trying to build on the strengths, or how do you approach the short to midterm future?
Yeah, well, I think at this point it's we found what we're good at. So I think now it does come down to how big do you want to set that financial goal to be? We really can't do much larger of work than we're already capable of doing. I mean, we can go out and pave as many tons as you want to throw at us. It's just a matter of how many days it's going to take, so now we work on efficiencies, we work on speed. Now, before you do any of that stuff, you got to have your quality down to a T. Like, you can't go fast before you're good. I mean, you can go fast, but it's going to look awful. I mean, it's going to be bad. We try to eliminate callbacks. I mean, dude,
Sure.
When I started, even as recent as 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, we would have, if we did 40 projects in a week, I'd say 20% of them had a callback issue or warranty issue. So we're going fast and we're doing good, we're making some money, but we got to go back to almost a quarter of what we just did and do it again, or do something again. So like, you've got to, the cost, it cost you 3 times as much as it did to go back and redo something, because you're paying to go back and do it, and you're losing that time that you could be doing something else to make profit for the next day. So I mean, it is a big 3-point turnaround when you got to go back and do warranty work. So you try to eliminate that stuff. I think I bet we only had I don't know, we did 600 some odd projects last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we had less than 20 callbacks, 20 warranty issues.
Nice.
So you're dropping that from 20% down to 5%, or something like that.
Yeah. Math is not working right now.
Huh?
But the math is not working in my brain right now.
Right. So I mean, that's a big one. So the goals you set, I mean, the goals we set now is, and I think we've kind of established how big we want to get or ever want to get. So now and the kind of jobs we want. So now what we focus on are those things, cost of goods sold, because our overhead is going to be our overhead. So you got your sales, you got your cost of goods sold. This is where it happens: cost of goods sold, and then you've got all your other expenses. So where in here, whether it be labor, material, fuel, all the things associated with actually producing that product. How can we squeeze? How can we get better? How can we get more efficient, faster? And a lot of that's, it's technology, it's skills, it's training, it's logistics, it's how do we take that gross margin from 35% to 50%?
Yeah. You're not going to do it by performing bad jobs. I'll tell you that much.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And if all your jobs are 20 to 30% margin jobs, well, that you're going to be a 20-30% margin company. We want to be people say we're crazy. Like, you can't do 50% on a $250,000 paving project. Hold my beer. Yes, you can. I mean, people think you're crazy. And by the way, when most people say that in the industry, somebody's saying, well, they're cheap, they're laying it thin, or there's no way they're doing it. Yes, you can. You need to get out of that old mentality way of thinking that it's impossible to do that kind of margin in this industry. Talk to my buddy Keith Jr. At K&L. He's figured out how to make money in this industry. My cousin down in Atlanta with Atlanta Asphalt, who's been mentoring me for 10 years, he's figured it. When he does $15 million in this paving company and his net profit is 35% at the end of the year, he's figured it out, and he didn't do it by cheating.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Most people think if you hit 8 to 12% net in a business, you're successful. You can achieve 25 to 35% in this industry when you start figuring it out.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, I know, Kev, you just came back from vacation, and we had a small time slot here. We're going to do our thoughts that won't stop on our Instagram page this week, just so you can get about your day.
I like that. Okay.
And then,
by the way, my thought that won't stop is going to have to do with the seal coating industry and the news we learned this morning from our good friends at Naira Industries, who came down from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Was Jeff with you, or was Jeff with them?
Yeah. Jeff was here. Jeff Caton.
Nice.
Jeff Caton, the man, the myth, the legend. He is. If you guys don't know Jeff, or you've never dealt with Naira, if they are a supplier in your market, you need to reach out to those folks, because there's, this is an industry where there are, and I think it's getting better, but it's historically have been very few people in this industry who really are good at doing business and value their relationships with their customers and operate with integrity, all those things. Naira is one of those businesses for sure. We couldn't be happier and more thankful to have a partner like them on our pavement maintenance side of the business here. So
yeah,
good stuff, man.
Yeah, I remember talking to Jeff just real quick when COVID first hit, and I guess it was maybe 3 months after COVID had started, and essential workers were maybe bled back and everything. He went to his local Naira station. He's I believe it's a regional sales rep, if I'm not mistaken, but he was actually working the station because he didn't want the business owners who were counting on the seal code that day to have to go without it. The rest of the employees were home or, scared or trying to figure it out. And he went in and made sure. So, I mean, he's, I don't know, that just spoke to me.
Yeah.
But we'll be sure to tag Naira, and we'll add Jeff's name in case you want to reach out to him. But in wrapping up real quick, tune in next week. I got approved from Audible to give everyone a free month trial of Audible, which basically means they get to keep a free audiobook. So maybe Kevin and I will talk about our favorite books here soon or something. And also, hello Canada. We have a lot of people listening in Canada, Kev. We're going international.
I love it.
So hello Canada.
I love it. Oh, Canada.
I don't know why. Get Adele singing.
Adele. Hello, and then combine Canada. We have a whole thing.
We're going to have you an album soon, but go to paveitforwardinc.com and let us know your question. That will start the conversation that helps all of the asphalt paving business owners out there. Seriously, we feed off of it. We appreciate your questions and comments. There's a contact form on the bottom of every page on the paveitforwardinc.com website, or you can just open up your phone and send a message to hello@paveitforwardinc.com. If you're having too much fun, stick around and take the paving industry report. That'll be wrapping up this month, and we're going to invite some guests on to talk about the results. So let us know your thoughts, and we appreciate your participation. If you just want to reach out on Instagram, it's at hello, or excuse me. Hello. I'm trying to get you out of here, Kev. Hello. The new handle on Instagram. That's all right. Pave It Forward Inc. That's what we're at. Kevin, any last thoughts for the people today?
No, hello. That's it. Hello. No, I'm good, man. I'm good. Until next time, brother.
All right. This has been the Pave It Forward podcast, where we aim to help leaders in the paving industry who are looking to run more efficiently, meet their ideal customer, and improve the lives of those around them through meaningful hellos. Thanks for listening.
Later, dude.